Can you believe there was once a time when all of Europe couldn't sleep at night because of a single name? A name so terrifying that when it was whispered, priests in cathedrals fell to their knees and prayed, the Mongols, an army from the east, riding small but ruthless horses that conquered half of the known world in less than 50 years. And yet, these invincible Mongols were eventually destroyed by Europe itself. But how? How did a divided continent manage to bring down such a ferocious and disciplined beast? 1241 AD, a storm rises from the plains of Ukraine. Peasants in Hungary stare silently toward the horizon. A dark cloud of dust approaches from the east. Behind that cloud, the Mongol horde is coming. Thousands of light horsemen with black banners and severed heads hanging from their saddles. Their commander, Batu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, narrows his eyes and whispers, "Europe will burn, just like China." Within 3 months, city after city in Eastern Europe was wiped from the map. Kiev, Krakow, and parts of Poland were turned to ash. No army could resist them. European knights, slow, heavy, and arrogant in their shining armor, looked like children against the lightning-fast tactics of the Mongols. At the Battle of Legnica, the Mongols pretended to retreat. The proud knights charged after them, only to find themselves surrounded in a ring of fire and arrows. By nightfall, the entire European army was destroyed. Only a few hundred men survived to carry the horror westward. Europe drowned in fear. Bishops declared, "These are the lost tribes of Gog and Magog, returned at the end of times." But the Mongols were smarter than anyone imagined. While European armies crawled like snails, Mongol riders covered 100 kilometers a day. Each warrior had several horses to keep from tiring. They communicated through flags, drums, and smoke, a perfectly organized machine of war. They carried maps of rivers, hills, and routes that no European commander had ever dreamed of. The Mongols didn't rely on brute force alone. They had networks of spies, aerial scouts using trained birds, and even Chinese engineers in their service. They used catapults, fire throwers, and poison arrows. What did Europe have in return? Kings who hated one another, armies that refused to fight side by side, and soldiers who relied more on prayer than on their swords. Europe was gasping for breath. From Hungary to Poland, the land was scorched. Villages destroyed, cities abandoned, fields left to rot. In Paris and Rome, rumors spread that the end of the world had arrived, that these black-clad riders were divine punishment for humanity's sins. Then, suddenly, silence. The unstoppable storm ceased. The Mongol horde, which had crushed everything in its path, began to retreat. No one knew why. No great battle had been lost. No European miracle had occurred. At first, Christian kings didn't believe it. Some said, it's a trap. The Mongols are pretending to flee. But weeks passed, and no attack came. Months later, the truth arrived. Ogedei Khan, son of Genghis Khan, had died in Mongolia. And by ancient law, all princes had to return home to the Kurultai, the great council that chose the next great Khan. Batu Khan, commander of the European front, reluctantly ordered a retreat. He loved the thrill of conquest, but he knew that defying tradition meant death. In silence, his riders crossed back over the lands they had burned. They didn't destroy the bridges, they didn't explain, they simply vanished. Europe was saved, but it didn't know why. Priests cried, God performed a miracle. But the truth was political and simple. Still, that brief pause was everything. It gave Europe the one thing it desperately needed: time. The kings of Europe now understood that if the Mongols ever returned, no miracle would save them again. They had to learn fast. And that moment marked the true beginning of Europe's military education. Europe opened its eyes. It realized what had caused its downfall. Not lack of courage, not lack of faith. The problem was structure, discipline, speed, cooperation. In the Middle Ages, Europe was a continent of arrogant kings and stubborn commanders. Every country had its own army, its own pride, and no one wanted to share power. But now, a threat had appeared that no border could stop, a storm that crossed mountains and rivers. The Mongols had revealed a new kind of warfare, fast, fluid, borderless, intelligent. Poles and Hungarians were the first to adapt. They learned from the barbarians who had crushed them that victory came not from heavy armor, but from agility and intelligence. New armies were formed: light cavalry, mobile archers, scouts who tracked every move of the enemy. Europeans abandoned open field duels and used forests, castles, and terrain to their advantage. Honor no longer meant facing your enemy head-on. Honor meant surviving and winning. But the greatest revolution began quietly, in monasteries and workshops. The discovery of gunpowder. At first, it was a Chinese toy, used for fireworks, but in European hands it became a weapon. The first stone cannons were tested in Florence. They were clumsy and slow, but they carried a clear message. The age of arrows and swords was ending. Wise kings like Charles Martel and later Jean de Bohème ordered their armies to adopt the new weapons. Eastern Europe began building fortresses with artillery towers, ready to answer fire with fire if the Mongols ever came back. Europe was transforming. A continent once known for defeat was now preparing for revenge. Gunpowder changed everything. Firearms rewrote the rules of war. By the 14th century, the first iron cannons appeared at Crécy and later at Castillon. At first, their thunder simply terrified enemies. But as accuracy improved, no cavalry, not even Mongol horsemen, was safe anymore. The Mongols, whose entire strength relied on speed and mobility, were now helpless against long-range artillery. Their arrows vanished in clouds of smoke and lead. Europe had learned how to kill from a distance. In battles like Khalkha and later Tula, disciplined European artillery lines shattered Mongol waves again and again. Europe hadn't just changed its weapons, it had changed its mind. In the 13th century, the knight's honor was to fight face to face. By the 15th century, honor meant winning smart. Europe had reached military maturity. Meanwhile, the Mongols were rotting from within. Their leaders fought over succession. Their armies splintered. Genghis Khan's empire, once blazing like gold in the sun, began to melt away. With discipline and reason, Europe ended the legend of Mongol invincibility. In the centuries that followed, that same Europe returned to the east, not to defend, but to conquer. The fall of the Mongols was not just the end of an empire. It was the beginning of a new era, an age where knowledge, order, and unity became stronger than the sword. Europe learned that true power lies in organization, information, and cooperation. From the ashes of the Mongol Empire rose the foundations of the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution. History always belongs to those who learn. And Europe became the best student its greatest enemy ever had. If you found this story fascinating, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. What do you think was the Mongols' greatest mistake? Cruelty, arrogance, or their inability to adapt? And remember, in every age, those who win are the ones who learn to evolve.